Close your eyes, and imagine you are standing at the edge of time itself. A world before kings, before concrete, before the very idea of a home existed. There is a shadow, moving just beyond the reach of your campfire. It isn't a wolf, it isn't a lion. It is something else. For 10,000 years, we have shared our beds, our secrets, and our lives with a creature that has never truly told us who they are. They are the only predators to ever walk into our homes, and stay, not as servants, but as silent witnesses to our history. Tonight, we aren't just talking about a pet. We are unraveling a 10,000-year-old mystery. How did a tiny, fierce, desert hunter decide to become the guardian of our souls? Why did they choose us? And what did they see in those first nights of human civilization that made them decide to never leave? Stay with me, because the answer lies in the dust of forgotten graves, in the whispers of ancient temples, and in a silence so golden, it changed the world forever. Before we step back into that ancient darkness, into the dawn of this secret alliance, I have a small request. If you find comfort in these long-lost stories, please subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. It's a quiet way to help this community grow, reaching those who need a peaceful escape. And, as you settle in tonight, I want to know, is there a pair of glowing eyes watching you from the corner of your room right now? What is the name of the silent companion sharing your space? Tell me about them in the comments. I read every single one. It feels like we're all sitting around the same fire, sharing the same history. Now, let the weight of the day fade away. Adjust your pillow. The journey is beginning. The year is 8000 BCE. The place is the Fertile Crescent, a sliver of green land between the great rivers. Humans have done something the world has never seen before. We have stopped running. We have planted seeds. We have built the first granaries, small, dark rooms filled with the gold of the ancient world, grain. But with the grain came the invaders. In the dead of night, thousands of tiny, scratching feet would invade these stores. Mice and rats, an unstoppable tide that threatened to starve the first villages. To the early humans, this was a disaster they couldn't fight. They were helpless. Until the golden silence arrived. From the high, dry grasses of the African plains, a shadow detached itself. Felis libica. The African wildcat. They didn't come because we called them. They didn't come because they loved us. They came because our failure, our infestation, was their banquet. Imagine being one of those first farmers, sitting outside your mud hut under a sky so thick with stars it looks like spilled milk. You hear the usual scratching of the pests in your storehouse. And then, suddenly, the sound stops. There is a silence so heavy, so absolute, it feels like the world is holding its breath. You look toward the grain store, and you see it. A small, elegant shape, sitting on a stone wall. Its fur is the color of the desert sand, its ears are tufted, and its eyes, oh, those eyes, they reflect the amber glow of your dying fire with an intelligence that feels ancient. It doesn't run. It doesn't hiss. It simply watches. This was the first moment of the Great Agreement. Over the next 1,000 years, this silence grew. The cats realized that near the humans, there was a never-ending supply of prey. And more importantly, there was safety. Large predators, leopards, hyenas, stayed away from the human fires. The cats were making a calculation. A choice that no other animal has ever made in the same way. They weren't broken by us, they weren't tamed by whips or fences. They chose to move closer. Can you feel the slow passage of time? Generations of humans and generations of cats, living side by side, but never touching. Not yet. The humans began to leave out scraps. A bit of fish from the river, a bowl of milk from the newly domesticated goats. It was an offering. A thank you to the silent hunters who kept the hunger away. And then, one night, it happened. Perhaps it was a mother cat, looking for a warm place to keep her kittens. Perhaps it was a cold winter in the hills. But one of them, the bravest of them, stepped across the threshold. From the wild world, into the human world. The first time a human hand touched the fur of a cat, the world changed. It wasn't just a physical touch. It was a bridge being built between the wild and the domestic. In 2004, archaeologists in Cyprus found a grave that still haunts the minds of historians. It was a simple grave, 9,500 years old. Inside lay a human, and buried just 40 centimeters away was a cat. This wasn't a wild cat that had been killed. It was a cat that had been handled, cared for, and loved. Its body was positioned with the same respect as the humans. Think about that. 9,500 years ago, someone's heart was broken when their cat died. Someone felt that their journey into the afterlife would be too lonely without their small, furry friend. The golden silence had become a golden bond. As you drift closer to sleep, think of that first purr. A sound that has no survival value in the wild. A sound that only exists for us. A vibration of trust echoing through 10 millennia, from a mud hut in the desert to the very room where you are lying tonight. The silence is no longer empty. It is full of the history we share with them. A history of shadows, grain, and a friendship that was never asked for, but always needed. But this was only the beginning. The desert was just the starting point. Ahead of us lie the golden temples of Egypt, where these silent hunters would become gods. For now, let the silence wash over you. Listen to the rhythm of the ancient world. The scratch of the grain, the glow of the fire, and the soft, steady breath of the watcher in the dark. The fire has burned down to glowing embers, and the world outside the mud brick hut is bathed in a pale, silver moonlight. We have left the era of the wanderer, and we have entered the era of the builder. But as we built our walls, we inadvertently created a sanctuary for something else. Something that arrived under the cover of darkness, without an invitation, but with a purpose. Imagine the scent, the heavy, sweet, dusty smell of thousands of pounds of harvested barley. This was the wealth of the ancient world. This grain was life itself. It was the difference between a winter of peace and a winter of starvation for the entire village. But listen, can you hear it? In the darkness of the earthen pits, beneath the floorboards of the first stone houses, there is a sound. A frantic, persistent scratching. Hundreds of tiny teeth gnawing through the wood. Thousands of tiny paws scurrying over the mounds of grain. The rodents had found our treasure. To the ancient farmer, this was a ghost they couldn't catch. A thief they couldn't lock out. Then, in the heart of that desperate silence, the contract was proposed. It didn't happen with words. It happened with a shadow. From the edges of the desert, a new kind of silence emerged. A cat doesn't walk like any other creature. It flows. like liquid moonlight moving across a dusty floor. Its paws are padded with soft, velvet-like cushions, making its approach as silent as a fading memory. The mice didn't hear it coming. The rats, for all their cunning, didn't stand a chance. Picture the scene the next morning. An ancient farmer opens the heavy wooden door of the granary, expecting to see his food ruined. Instead, he finds a single, striped hunter, sitting atop the highest sack of grain. It isn't eating the wheat. It is cleaning its paws, perfectly composed. It looks at the human with those unblinking, golden eyes, and in that gaze, there is an agreement. You have the food that draws my prey, and I have the skills to protect your life. This was the grain store contract. A deal born of necessity, but sustained by something deeper. Unlike the dog, which we trained to obey, the cat refused to be a servant. It remained an independent contractor, a professional of the shadows. Think of the patience of those first cats. To move into a human village required a suppression of their wildest instincts. They had to trust that we wouldn't strike them down. And we, in our wisdom, realized that this creature was the only thing standing between us and hunger. As the nights turned into years, and the years into centuries, the cat moved from the storehouses, to the porches, and finally, to the hearth. They became part of the family rhythm. They learned the sound of our breathing. They knew when the fishermen would return with their nets. They began to associate the vibration of a human voice, not with danger, but with the possibility of a shared warmth. And in return, they gave us a gift we didn't even know we were seeking. Have you ever noticed how a room feels different when a cat is sleeping in it? Even when they are completely still, their presence brings a sense of profound sanctuary. To the ancient world, this was a form of protection that transcended the physical. A house with a cat felt balanced, whole. The scratching in the walls faded away. The fear of the harvest being lost diminished. And in its place, a new sound began to fill the quiet evenings of our ancestors. The purr. A low, rhythmic vibration, like the earth itself humming a lullaby. We felt our hearts slow down when the hunter settled near us. We felt the stress of the day melt away as we watched the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of their fur. The contract was complete. We gave them a home, and they gave us a peace we had never known. But as these small villages grew into the great cities of the Nile, the respect we had for these hunters was about to turn into something much more powerful. The contract was about to become divine. The silent guardian of the grain was about to be draped in gold and worshipped as a god. But for now, just listen to the silence of the granary. The cool night air, the smell of dry barley, and the golden eyes of the watcher, keeping you safe as the moon crosses the sky. The harvest is secure. The contract is honored. And the world, for a moment, is perfectly still. The dry air of the Near Eastern granaries is changing. It is becoming warmer, heavier, carrying the scent of lotus blossoms and incense. We are drifting south, following the curve of the ancient Nile, into a land where the sun is a god, and the shadows are sacred. In the grain stores of the desert, they were protectors. But here, in the shadow of the Great Pyramids, the cat is something much more. They have transitioned from the silence of the hunt to the divine whisper of the temple. Imagine the city of Bubastis at dusk. The limestone walls reflect the dying orange light of Ra, the sun god. The air is thick with the sound of sistrums, sacred rattles, and the low hum of priests chanting in the deep recesses of the temples. And there, sitting on a pedestal of polished basalt, is a cat. It wears a collar of braided gold. Its ears are adorned with silver rings. It doesn't look like a pet. It looks like a ruler who has always known its worth. To the ancient Egyptians, the cat was not merely an animal. It was a vessel, a living bridge between the world of men and the world of the gods. They called the cat Mao, a name that mimics their own voice, a name that sounds like a question, or perhaps an ancient answer. But why? Why did the people who built the greatest monuments on earth bow down to a small creature that purrs by the fire? Listen to the whisper of the papyrus reeds, and you will understand. The Egyptians saw the world as a constant struggle between order and chaos. Ma'at, the balance of the universe, was fragile. And in the eyes of the cat, they saw the ultimate balance. They saw a creature that could be perfectly still, like a statue, for hours. And then, in a flash of silver light, it could strike with the precision of a lightning bolt. They saw the sun reflected in those golden pupils, which expand and contract like the cycles of the moon. In the cat, they saw the goddess Batet. She was the protector of the home, the goddess of fertility, of dance, and of secrets. Originally, she was a fierce lioness, bloodthirsty and wild. But as civilization grew, as the hearth became the center of life, Batet softened. She took the form of the domestic cat. She became the Eye of Ra, the guardian who watched over the sleeping world when the sun had gone into the underworld. Think of the life of a temple cat in ancient Egypt. This was the pinnacle of feline luxury. They were fed the finest fish from the Nile, served on plates of precious metals. They were groomed by priests who treated every strand of fur as a holy relic. To kill a cat, even by accident, was a crime beyond forgiveness. It was seen as an assault on the divine order itself. There are stories of houses on fire, where the humans would stand in a circle around the flames, not to save their gold, not to save their clothes, but to ensure that no cat ran back into the fire. The cat was the heartbeat of the Egyptian home. If a cat died of natural causes, the grief was profound. Entire families would shave their eyebrows as a sign of mourning. They would weep in the streets, as if they had lost a king. And then came the final journey. The Egyptians believed in an eternal life, a field of reeds where everything was perfect. And they couldn't imagine a heaven without their cats. The same care that was given to the pharaohs was given to these small guardians. Their bodies were washed in palm wine, treated with costly resins and spices, and wrapped in fine linen bandages, often in intricate patterns that mirrored their beautiful fur. They were placed in wooden sarcophagi carved in their likeness. Some were even buried with a small mouse, mummified, so the cat would have something to hunt in the afterlife. Millions of these mummies have been found, a silent army of fur and linen, waiting in the dark for their masters to wake up. Can you hear it now? The divine whisper? It is the sound of a cat walking through a temple of incense. It is the sound of a goddess purring in the lap of a queen. It is the realization that we have stopped being just partners, and have started being worshippers. The cat has accepted our devotion. They have accepted the gold, the fish, and the prayers. But they have never lost that original, wild silence of the desert. Even on a golden throne, a cat is still a hunter of shadows. As you drift further into the night, imagine the cool stone floors of an Egyptian palace. Feel the soft breeze coming off the Nile, carrying the scent of the desert and the river. And there, at the foot of your bed, sits a shadow with golden eyes. You are not just sleeping. You are being guarded by a divinity, a creature that has seen the rise and fall of empires, and has remained unchanged, untouched, and eternally calm. The sistrums have fallen silent. The priests have gone to rest. Only the cat remains awake, watching the stars as they turn over the pyramids. The world is safe. The goddess is watching. And the whisper is finally a lullaby. Sleep in the grace of Batet. The golden light of the Egyptian sun is fading now, slipping beneath the horizon of the Sahara. The temples of Batet are growing cold, and the incense smoke has drifted into the night sky. We are leaving the world of the living and moving into the world of the echoes, into the cool, dark, and silent chambers of the afterlife. For thousands of years, beneath the shifting sands of Saqqara and Beni Hassan, there was a secret kept in the dark. A silence so deep, it felt like time itself had stopped to rest. This is the story of the mummies. Not of kings, but of our small, furry companions who were chosen to live forever. Imagine you are walking down a long, limestone corridor, deep beneath the earth. The air is still, smelling of ancient dust, cedar oil, and dried natron. Your footsteps make no sound on the soft sand floor. In the flickering light of a single oil lamp, you see them. Thousands upon thousands of small, linen-wrapped shapes, stacked carefully from floor to ceiling. These are the mummified echoes. Each one a life, each one a memory, each one a prayer. To the people of the Nile, death was not an end. It was a transition, a journey across a dark river to a place of eternal sunshine. And they couldn't imagine making that journey alone. Think of the hands that prepared these small bodies. The priests of the necropolis. Their movements were slow, deliberate, and filled with a strange kind of love. They didn't see a dead animal. They saw a sacred vessel that was going to carry a message to the gods. First, the body was washed with the sacred waters of the Nile. Then, it was treated with rare resins brought from the mountains of Punt and spices that cost more than gold. Myrrh, frankincense, and cassia. Can you smell it? That heavy, spicy scent, meant to preserve the body for 1,000,000 years? As they wrapped the cat in fine linen, they would recite ancient spells, whispering into the cat's ears, giving it the directions it would need to navigate the underworld. Turn left at the gates of shadow, follow the path of the silver moon, find your master in the field of reeds. Some of these mummies were wrapped with incredible artistry. The linen strips were woven into intricate geometric patterns, diamonds and squares, creating a beautiful, silent armor for the hunter. They even painted faces on the outer wrappings. Large, golden eyes, and delicate black whiskers, so the cat could still see in the dark of the tomb. But why so many? Why did the desert hold millions of these silent guardians? It was because a mummified cat was considered a powerful messenger. If you had a secret prayer, if you wanted protection for your family, you would offer a mummified cat to the temple. You were sending a whisper to the goddess Batet, a whisper that would last for eternity. Think of the silence in these underground vaults. It isn't a cold silence. It is a warm, protective blanket of history. In the late 1800s, when these tombs were first rediscovered, the world was shocked. One single tomb at Beni Hassan contained over 300,000 cat mummies. A vast, silent army of feline souls. For a moment, think of the connection that exists across the ages. A child in ancient Egypt, crying because their favorite kitten had passed away. A priest gently wrapping that kitten in linen. And thousands of years later, we are here, in the quiet of our own rooms, thinking of them. The distance between us and them is just a heartbeat. Just a breath. The Egyptians believed that a cat had a soul. And they believed that if the body was preserved, the ka could return to it whenever it wished. So, in the deep of the night, when the desert wind howls over the pyramids, perhaps these echoes wake up. Perhaps, in the spirit world, they stretch their linen-wrapped limbs, let out a silent meow, and go hunting for the shadows of ancient mice. They are not gone. They are just waiting. Waiting in the golden silence we spoke of before. As you feel your own limbs grow heavy, as you sink into your mattress, imagine you are lying in one of those peaceful, cool chambers. Secure. Guarded by the echoes of 10,000 years of love. The dust has settled. The resins have hardened into amber. The linen is soft and old. There is no more scratching in the walls. There is no more hunting in the heat. There is only the long, beautiful dream of the Nile. You are part of this history now. The same peace that those ancient cats found in their limestone beds is the peace that is washing over you tonight. The echoes are fading into a hum. A low, steady, rhythmic purr that vibrates through the stones and the sand. Listen to it. Let it guide you. The tomb is closed. The stars are high. The journey is long, but you are not alone. Sleep among the echoes. Sleep in the cradle of time. The silence of the Egyptian tombs is now behind us. The dust of the mummies has settled into the deep earth, and a new sound is beginning to rise. It is the sound of water. The rhythmic, hypnotic lapping of the Mediterranean Sea against the wooden hulls of ancient ships. We are leaving the golden sands of the Nile, and stepping onto the salt-crusted decks of the Phoenician traders. But there is a tension in the air tonight. A secret being carried in the dark. For you see, in the land of the pharaohs, the cat was so sacred, so divine, that it was strictly forbidden for a single one of them to leave the borders of Egypt. To take a cat was to steal a piece of a god. It was a crime punishable by death. And yet, as we look across the moonlit harbor of Alexandria, we see shadows moving. Men in dark tunics, whispers lost in the wind, and small, wooden crates being hurried onto ships destined for the unknown north. This is the beginning of the great diaspora. The smuggler's secret. Imagine the atmosphere of a Phoenician galley at midnight. The smell is a mixture of cedar wood, old ropes, salty brine, and the pungent aroma of exotic spices. The ship creaks as it sways, a heavy, wooden groan that sounds like a living thing breathing in the dark. Beneath the main deck, hidden behind stacks of amphorae filled with wine and olive oil, sits a small, inconspicuous box. Inside that box, there is no gold. There are no jewels. There is only a pair of glowing, amber eyes. A small, striped traveler, snatched from a temple courtyard, and destined for a world that has never seen its like before. Think of the journey this small creature is about to undertake. The Mediterranean in the ancient world was a vast, terrifying expanse. For a cat, accustomed to the warm, stable floors of an Egyptian palace, the rocking of a ship must have felt like the world itself was coming undone. But the smugglers knew what they were doing. They knew that in the lands of Greece, in the growing settlements of Rome, and in the distant colonies of the West, there was a hunger for the Mao. Not just as a god, but as a weapon against the pests that ruined their harvests. The cat was the most valuable contraband in history. As the ship pulls away from the Pharos lighthouse, leaving the safety of Egypt behind, the smuggler reaches down into the shadows. He offers a small piece of dried fish through the slats of the crate. He whispers to the cat, not in the sacred language of the priests, but in the rough, weathered tongue of a sailor. "Be quiet, little god," he says. "If the Egyptian patrol finds you, we are both lost to the sea. Can you feel the stillness of the open ocean at night? The way the stars seem to touch the water, creating a world of infinite black and silver." The cat settles down. It is a creature of immense adaptability. It realizes that the rocking of the ship is just another kind of rhythm. Like the purr of its mother. Like the swaying of the Nile reeds. Days turn into weeks. The ship passes the jagged coastlines of Crete, the mist-covered islands of the Aegean. On board, the cat has been released from its crate. It has a job to do. The ship's hold is full of grain and dried meats, which means it is also full of rats. Huge, aggressive sea rats that can chew through leather and wood. In the pitch-black darkness of the ship's belly, the Egyptian cat becomes a ghost once again. It doesn't need light. It feels the vibrations of the ship through its whiskers. It hears the scratching of the rats over the roar of the wind. One by one, the invaders are neutralized. The sailors begin to look at this small, silent stowaway with a new kind of respect. They see the way it moves, with a grace that defies the tilting deck. They see the way it watches the horizon with a gaze that seems to understand the stars better than any navigator. By the time the ship reaches the rugged ports of Greece, the smuggler's secret is no longer a secret. Word begins to spread through the marketplaces. Stories of a small lion that lives in the house, a creature that carries the dignity of a temple and the lethality of a hunter. The Greeks, ever the philosophers, are fascinated. They don't worship the cat as a god like the Egyptians did, but they see in it a reflection of their own ideals. Beauty, independence, and a fierce, unyielding spirit. They call it Ailuros, the waving tail. But the journey doesn't stop in Greece. These smuggled cats are being traded further and further. Up the coast of Italy, into the hands of the early Romans. Into the villas of the wealthy, who want them as curiosities, and into the farms of the poor, who need them for survival. Think of the millions of descendants that would come from these few, stolen Egyptian cats. Every tabby sleeping on a porch in Europe, every calico in an American barn, every stray in the streets of London, they all carry the DNA of those first, smuggled travelers. They carry the memory of the salt spray, the wooden crates, and the silence of the Phoenician ships. As you lie there tonight, think of the courage of that first journey. The way a small creature could cross a vast, unknown ocean and find a home in a completely foreign land. The cat is a master of the world because it is a master of itself. It doesn't matter if it is in a palace, a tomb, or a rocking ship. It remains the center of its own universe. The waves are calmer now. The ship has found its harbor. The smuggler has been paid in silver, and the cat has been carried into a new house, a new life, under a different sky. The secrets of Egypt are being scattered across the world, like seeds in the wind. Can you hear the soft thud of paws on a new kind of soil? The sound of a new history beginning? Let your mind drift with the tide. Feel the gentle, rocking motion of the ancient ship. The sea is vast, but you are safe in the hold. surrounded by the scent of cedar and the protection of the silent hunter. The journey is far from over, but for tonight, the anchor has been dropped. The stars are still, and the secret is safe. Sleep now, as the ship rests in the bay. Sleep, and dream of the silver sea. The salt air of the Mediterranean is fading, replaced by the scent of damp earth, pine needles, and the cold metallic tang of iron. We have followed the cats from the Egyptian temples, through the secret crates of smugglers, and now we find them in the most unlikely of places. In the heart of the Roman war machine. Imagine a long, straight stone road stretching across the rugged landscape of Gaul, or the mist-shrouded hills of Britannia. Can you hear it? The rhythmic, heavy thud of thousands of caligae, the iron-studded sandals of the Roman legionaries. Clang, thud, clang, thud. It is the sound of an empire marching. But if you look closely at the baggage train, behind the heavy carts of grain and the racks of pilum spears, you will see a different kind of soldier. A small, four-legged companion, sitting calmly atop a pile of leather tents. Watching the world go by with eyes that have seen the rise of civilizations and the fall of kings. This is the era when the cat became a soldier's friend. A companion in the lonely outposts at the edge of the world. The Roman army was a marvel of organization, but it had a weakness. Grain. To feed thousands of men in the wilderness, they had to carry massive stores of wheat and barley. And where there is grain in the wilderness, there are invaders. Field mice, black rats, and pests that could eat through a month's rations in a single week. A hungry soldier is a dangerous soldier. The Roman generals knew this. And so, they enlisted the help of an ancient ally. The cats were no longer smuggled secrets. They were essential staff. They were the silent guardians of the legion's survival. Picture a cold, foggy morning on Hadrian's Wall, at the very northern edge of the empire. The wind is howling across the moors, a biting, bitter cold that chills the bone. A Roman sentry stands on the stone ramparts, wrapped in a thick woolen cloak, staring into the gray mist. He is thousands of miles from the warm sun of Italy. He is lonely. He is tired. Then, he feels a slight pressure against his shin. A soft, furry body rubbing against his cold bronze greaves. He looks down, and there is a small, tabby cat. It has followed him up to the watchtower. It doesn't care about the cold. It doesn't care about the barbarians in the mist. It only cares about the warmth of the soldier's presence, and the chance of a scrap of dried meat. In these isolated forts, the cat became more than a rat catcher. It became a symbol of home. A living reminder of the domestic peace they were fighting to expand. The soldiers would sit around the campfire at night, the light reflecting off their curved shields and polished helmets. They would talk of their families in Rome, of the vineyards they left behind. And as they talked, a cat would weave its way between their legs, purring a low, rhythmic song that seemed to harmonize with the crackling of the wood. This purr was a bridge. It connected the brutal reality of the frontier with the softness of civilization. The Romans respected the cat's independence. They saw in the cat a reflection of the Libertas, the spirit of liberty. In Roman art, the goddess Libertas is often depicted with a cat sitting at her feet. Because you cannot force a cat to stay. If it stays, it is because it chooses to. And to a Roman soldier, that choice was a profound honor. Think of the journey these cats took. They marched across the Alps. They crossed the Rhine and the Danube. They lived in the forests of Germany and the villas of Spain. Every time the Roman eagle moved forward, the cat moved with it. The Romans were the ones who truly spread the cat across Europe. They brought them into the hearts of the great cities they built: London, Paris, Vienna. They gave the cat a new title. Not a god, but a companio, a companion of the road. As you settle into your own bed tonight, imagine the walls of a Roman fort surrounding you. Thick, solid, protective stone. Outside, the world is wild and cold, but inside, the fire is warm. Imagine a small, ginger cat curled up on the foot of a soldier's cot. It is dreaming of the warm sands of its ancestors, but it is perfectly content here, in the cold north. It is safe, and it is making the soldier feel safe too. The silence of the frontier is not empty. It is filled with the steady, comforting breath of your protector. The Roman Empire has long since crumbled into dust. The iron swords have rusted away. The great stone roads are covered in grass. But the descendants of those legionary cats are still here. They are the ones who survived the collapse. They stayed in the ruins, waiting for the next chapter of human history to begin. They are the ultimate survivors. They are the silent witnesses to the rise and fall of power. Let your mind march slowly with the legions. Feel the weight of the day lifting off your shoulders, like a soldier setting down his heavy pack. The march is over for today. The camp is secure. The fire is glowing. And by your side, or perhaps just in your thoughts, the companion is waiting. Watching the shadows, listening to the night, ensuring that your sleep is deep and undisturbed. The world is vast, and history is long, but the peace of a cat is eternal. Sleep now, under the protection of the legion. Sleep, and hear the echoes of the ancient road. The heavy thud of the Roman legions is fading into the distance, the iron swords have been laid to rest, and the world is falling into a different kind of silence. We are moving away from the muddy roads of war, and entering the stone corridors of the soul. The early Middle Ages have arrived. A time of candlelight, of parchment, and of deep, monastic contemplation. Imagine a secluded monastery, perched high on a mist-covered cliff in Ireland, or tucked away in the dense forests of France. Outside, the world is in chaos. Empires are shifting like sand, but inside these thick stone walls, time moves at the speed of a dripping candle. This is the sanctuary of the monks, the keepers of knowledge. And in this world of ink and prayer, the cat has found a new, sacred role. They are no longer soldiers, they are scholars. They are the silent companions of the scribes. Picture a small, vaulted room called a scriptorium. The only light comes from narrow, arched windows, casting long, dusty beams across wooden desks. The air smells of beeswax, old vellum, and the metallic scent of iron gall ink. Here, a monk sits for hours, his back bent over a sacred manuscript, painstakingly drawing every letter, every gold leaf illustration. But he is not alone. Curled up on the edge of his desk, or perhaps sleeping atop a stack of dry parchment, is a cat. Its fur is soft against the cold stone. Its purr is the only sound in the room, a low, rhythmic vibration that seems to help the monk focus on his holy work. To the monk, the cat is a blessing. For in these libraries, there is a silent enemy. Mice. Tiny creatures that love the taste of expensive parchment and the glue used in bookbinding. A single mouse could destroy years of a scribe's labor in a single night. But the cat is the guardian of knowledge. It keeps watch over the history of the world while the world sleeps. There is a famous poem written in the margins of an ancient Irish manuscript from the 9th century. It was written by a monk about his white cat. Pan Gurban. I and Pan Gurban my cat. 'Tis a like task we are at. Hunting mice is his delight. Hunting words I sit all night. Think of that connection. Across 1,000 years, we can feel the warmth of that friendship. The monk sees himself in the cat. The cat is patient, focused, and silent. The monk strives to be the same in his prayers. They are both hunters, one for prey, and one for truth. In the quiet of the monastery, the cat becomes a symbol of the contemplative life. They don't demand attention. They don't break the vow of silence. They simply are. Sometimes, if you look closely at medieval manuscripts in museums today, you can see a secret left behind. A small, ink-stained paw print, right in the middle of a holy text. Imagine the scene. The monk gets up for a moment to chant his afternoon prayers. The cat, curious and warm, jumps onto the desk. It steps into the wedding pot, and then walks across the page, leaving a permanent mark of its presence. When the monk returns, does he get angry? No. He smiles. He leaves the print there, a small, earthly touch in a heavenly book. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the stillness of that scriptorium. The cold stone walls are protecting you from the wind. The candlelight is soft and flickering. You are surrounded by the wisdom of the ages, and the silence is perfect. Feel the rhythmic movement of the monk's pen, scratch, 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 against the parchment. And then, feel the counter rhythm of the cat's breathing. Everything is in balance. Everything is as it should be. The Middle Ages were often dark and difficult, but in these pockets of peace, the cat was a source of light. They provided comfort to men who had given up everything else. They were the only creatures allowed to roam freely through the cloisters, from the kitchen to the altar. They were the silent witnesses to the preservation of our history. Let your mind drift into the shadows of the monastery. Let the smell of old books and beeswax wrap around you like a heavy, woolen blanket. The world outside is far away. The problems of the day are just fading ink on a page. The cat on the desk has tucked its paws under its chest. Its eyes are closed, but its ears occasionally twitch, listening to the distant sound of the monks chanting in the chapel. Kyrie eleison. The sound is like a lullaby. You are safe in the library of time. The guardian is awake, so you can sleep. The ink is dry, the books are closed, and the night is holy. The peaceful stone corridors of the monastery are beginning to fade. The scent of beeswax and holy incense is being replaced by something colder, something sharper. We are stepping out of the sanctuary and into the narrow, winding streets of a world gripped by superstition. The late Middle Ages have arrived. A time when the sun seemed a little dimmer, and the shadows of the human mind began to grow long and distorted. Tonight, we enter the most difficult chapter of our journey. Shadows of the Middle Ages. Imagine a city in the 14th century. The streets are made of uneven cobblestones, slick with rain and mystery. High above, the jagged spires of Gothic cathedrals pierce the gray clouds like stone needles. As evening falls, a thick, damp fog rolls in from the river, swallowing the light of the few flickering oil lamps. In this world, silence was not always seen as peace. Sometimes, silence was seen as a hiding place for the unknown. For thousands of years, the cat had been a god, a guardian, and a scholar's companion. But as fear began to rule the hearts of men, that very same independence, that very same mystery, became a target. The cat, with its glowing eyes that could see through the dark, became a symbol of the things humans could not control. Especially the black cat, moving like a smudge of ink through the midnight fog, it became the centerpiece of a dark folklore. Why did this happen? Why did the creature that saved our grain and shared our hearth suddenly become a figure of dread? It was because the cat is a creature of the threshold. It lives between the wild and the domestic. It belongs to no one but itself. In an age of strict rules and absolute fear, that freedom was terrifying. People began to whisper that the cat was the familiar of the witch, that they were spies for the unseen world. They watched the way a cat would sit perfectly still, staring at a corner where a human saw nothing. We know now they were likely listening to the heartbeat of a mouse behind the stones, but back then, they thought the cat was conversing with ghosts. This was a time of great sorrow for our feline friends. The very hands that once offered milk were now raised in suspicion. The doors that were once left ajar were now bolted shut. The cat was forced back into the shadows, back into the wild places from which it had emerged 10,000 years before. Think of the resilience of these creatures during these centuries. They didn't understand the change in us, but they understood survival. They moved to the rooftops, to the deep cellars, to the abandoned ruins of old Roman forts. They became ghosts in their own homes. But as we pushed the cats away, we invited something far more dangerous into our beds. Without the silent hunters patrolling the streets, the rodent population exploded. The black rat, carrying a passenger of death known as the plague, began to thrive in the absence of its natural predator. History shows us the heavy price of fear. By turning against the cat, humanity had inadvertently weakened its own defenses. The Black Death swept through Europe, a tragedy that might have been lessened if the golden-eyed guardians had been allowed to stay by the fire. Even in the darkest nights of the plague, the cats were there, watching from the shadows, misunderstood and mistreated, yet still doing the only thing they knew how to do, survive. But even in this age of shadows, there were pockets of light. Not every heart was closed. Think of the lonely widow living at the edge of the forest, the herbalist who knew the secrets of the plants, the eccentric scholar who refused to believe the superstitions of the mob. These were the secret protectors of the cat. In the dead of night, a small bowl of goat's milk might be placed on a back doorstep. A soft whistle might call a frightened tabby into the warmth of a hidden kitchen. These small acts of kindness were the threads that kept the bond from snapping entirely. A secret alliance that existed beneath the surface of history. The cat is a master of patience. It knows how to wait for the storm to pass. It knows that the moon will always rise, and the sun will always return. On a broken stone wall in the heart of a sleeping village, a cat sits. Its tail is tucked neatly around its paws. It looks out over the rooftops, seeing a world that is afraid of its own shadow. The cat does not judge. It simply observes. It carries the memory of Egypt, the memory of the Roman roads, and it waits for the human mind to find its balance once again. Now, bring your awareness back to your own room. The shadows here are not the shadows of the Middle Ages. They are the shadows of your own sanctuary. You are safe. You are in a time where the mystery of the cat is celebrated, not feared. Imagine the cold fog of that medieval street being replaced by the warmth of your blankets. The distant tolling of the bell is now just the rhythmic thumping of your own heart. The cats of that dark time survived so that they could be here with us today. They carried their secrets through the fire and the fog, just for us. They taught us that even when the world is misunderstood, even when we are cast out, we can still find the strength to remain silent, to remain calm, and to wait for the dawn. The spires of the old cathedrals are fading now. The whispers of the fearful are growing quiet. The world is reclaiming its peace. You are drifting further away from the stone and the cold. You are moving toward the rebirth, toward a time when the cat will once again be the darling of the artists and the kings. But for now, just rest. Let the resilience of the ancient cat be your strength. Let their patience be your peace. The night is long, but it is kind. The shadows are just memories. Sleep now, in the safety of the present. Sleep, and let the history of the world drift by like a cloud. The shadows of the medieval world haven't quite vanished yet, but the air is beginning to change. We are still in the heart of the darkness, in that long, cold night of the human spirit. But tonight, we are not looking at the fear of men. We are looking at the strength of the feline soul. This is the story of survival when the world turned its back. This is the resilience in darkness. Imagine a forest at the edge of a sleeping village in the year 1450. The trees are ancient oaks, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers against a moonless sky. The ground is covered in a thick carpet of dead leaves and damp moss. It is a place where most humans would be afraid to walk after sunset. But look closely, near the hollow of that fallen tree. Do you see the slight movement? The twitch of a tail? There, in the absolute dark, a cat is waiting. It has been exiled from the village. It has been chased away from the warmth of the barn. And yet, it does not look defeated. It looks like a king in its own silent domain. Resilience is not just about staying alive. It is about maintaining one's dignity when everything is taken away. The cats of this era were masters of this silent dignity. They moved to the fringes of civilization. They learned the language of the deep woods, the rhythms of the nocturnal birds, and the secret paths of the mountain streams. Think of the physical marvel that is a cat in the wild. Every muscle is a coiled spring. Every whisker is a delicate sensor that can feel the weight of the air itself. In the darkness, their pupils expand until they are large, black pools, capturing every stray photon of light from the distant stars. They were built for the dark. They were born for the shadows. While the people in the village were shivering in their beds, terrified of ghosts and demons, the cat was moving through the night with a grace that can only be described as divine. It was a perfect machine of survival. It found shelter in the ruins of old castles, in the rafters of abandoned mills, and in the limestone caves that had been forgotten by man. But the darkness wasn't just physical. It was a darkness of the heart. Imagine the resilience required for a creature that had been worshipped as a god in Egypt, and served as a royal companion in Rome, to now be treated as an outcast. Yet, the cat did not change its nature. It did not become bitter. It did not become a servant. It remained a cat. This is the most beautiful part of their history. They never lost their sense of self. They never traded their independence for a safe corner. They waited. They endured. And they observed. From their high perches on the jagged cliffs or the thatched roofs, they watched the human world struggle. They watched the rise of the great plagues, the shifting of the seasons, and the slow awakening of human reason. They were the silent witnesses to our darkest centuries. Think of a mother cat, hiding her kittens in the hayloft of a forgotten stable. She is hungry, she is cold, but she is fierce. She grooms her babies with a rhythmic, sandpaper tongue, the sound of it echoing softly in the silence. She is teaching them the ancient secrets of the hunt. She is passing on the legacy of the Nile to a generation that will live in the shadows of a European forest. There is a quiet power in simply existing, in refusing to disappear. By the time the first light of the Renaissance began to touch the horizon, the cats were still there. They hadn't vanished. They had just become more mysterious, more refined, more resilient. The dark centuries had forged them into something indestructible. They had survived the fire, the fog, and the fear. Can you feel that resilience within yourself tonight? The ability to stay calm when the world around you is uncertain? The cat is our teacher in this. It shows us that we can find our way through the darkest woods if we trust our instincts. If we move slowly. If we breathe deeply. The night is not an enemy. It is a sanctuary. It is a place where we can rest and gather our strength for the dawn. The forest is quiet now. Even the wind has stopped its whispering. The mother cat in the stable has curled her body around her kittens, forming a circle of warmth in a cold world. The vibration of her purr is so low, so steady, it feels like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Listen to that vibration. Let it sink into your bones. It is the sound of 10,000 years of survival. It is the sound of a spirit that cannot be broken. You are safe now. The darkness is no longer a place of fear, but a place of peace. The shadows are not hiding monsters, they are hiding friends. Let the weight of your body sink into the mattress, just like the cat sinking into the soft hay. You don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to worry about the morning. The resilience of the past has brought us to this moment. A moment of perfect stillness. A moment where you are allowed to simply be. The stars are watching over you, just as they watched over the cats in the ancient woods. The universe is wide, but you have found your sanctuary. Sleep now, with the strength of the survivor. The long, cold night of the Middle Ages is finally beginning to soften. The shadows that once felt like heavy blankets of fear are lifting, and a new light is spilling across the marble floors of Europe. We are entering the dawn of a new era. The Renaissance. A time of rebirth, of curiosity, and of a rediscovery of the beauty in the world. And in this newfound light, a familiar silhouette is stepping out from the darkness of the woods, and back into the center of the human heart. Welcome to the Renaissance Rebirth. Imagine you are standing in a grand artist's studio in Florence. The air is thick with the smell of linseed oil, fresh pine resin, and the earthy scent of crushed pigments. Lapis lazuli blue, ochre yellow, and cinnabar red. Great canvases lean against the walls, and the sound of a soft breeze travels through the open arched windows, bringing with it the distant tolling of a church bell and the scent of jasmine. And there, sitting on a velvet cushion near the window, bathed in a pool of warm, Italian sun, is a cat. It is no longer a creature to be feared. It is a masterpiece of nature, being studied by the greatest minds of the century. Think of the hands of Leonardo da Vinci, the man who sought to understand the very mechanics of the universe. He spent hours, days, weeks, filling his sketchbooks with the movements of cats. He watched the way they arched their backs, the way they coiled their muscles before a leap, the way they groomed themselves with a precision that seemed mathematical. He famously wrote that the smallest feline is a masterpiece. In the Renaissance, the cat was no longer a demon. It was a marvel of engineering, a symbol of grace and hidden power. The artist saw in the cat what the world was trying to find in itself, a balance between the wild and the refined. As you lie there, imagine the feeling of that sun-drenched studio. The warmth on your skin, the absolute quiet of the afternoon. The cat on the cushion stretches, extending its claws into the soft fabric, then slowly, very slowly, tucking them back in. It is a movement of perfect control. The Renaissance was a rebirth for the human spirit, but for the cat, it was a return to dignity. They moved from the muddy alleys of suspicion into the high galleries of the Medici. They became the companions of poets, the muses of painters, and the silent residents of the most beautiful palaces ever built. The world was opening up. Science was replacing superstition. And as we began to study the natural world, we realized that the cat was not our enemy, but our teacher. They taught us about independence. They taught us about the beauty of the quiet moment. In the great houses of Venice and Rome, the cat was a sign of a sophisticated home. A cat sitting by a fireplace or on a silk rug told the world that this house was a place of peace, a place of intellect, and a place where nature was respected. Think of the silence of a library in the 1500s. The smell of leather-bound books and heavy oak shelves. A scholar sits late into the night, his spectacles sliding down his nose, as he reads the ancient texts of the Greeks. At his feet, a cat sleeps. It doesn't care about the secrets of the stars or the laws of physics. It simply is. And the scholar finds comfort in that. In a world that was changing so fast, the cat was a constant. A rhythmic, purring anchor in a sea of new ideas. The rebirth of the cat was a rebirth of our own empathy. We started to see them again, truly see them. Not as omens, but as friends. The bond that had been forged in Egypt and tested in the Roman legions was being renewed in the golden light of the Mediterranean. Can you feel that renewal tonight? The feeling of leaving behind the old fears and the heavy worries of the day? The Renaissance is not just a time in history. It is a state of mind. It is the moment you decide to let the light back in. Imagine yourself walking through a garden in Tuscany at twilight. The cypress trees stand like dark sentinels against a violet sky. The air is cooling, and the fireflies are beginning to dance over the lavender. A cat follows you, its tail a high, waving banner of friendship. It walks with you through the tall grass, its footsteps silent, its presence a warm, comforting weight in the deepening blue of the evening. This is the peace of the rebirth. The world is beautiful again. The shadows are no longer places for monsters, but places for rest. Let your mind drift back into the plush velvet and the sun-warmed stone. You are surrounded by art, by history, and by a silence that is rich and full. The journey of the cat has brought them back to our side, and they are here to stay. The artists have put down their brushes. The scholars have closed their books. The sun has set over the Arno River, and the city of Florence is falling into a deep, graceful sleep. And you are falling with it. The cat has found a spot at the foot of your bed, or perhaps in the corner of your mind. It is curling into a tight, perfect circle. A circle with no beginning and no end. A symbol of eternity. Listen to the world growing quiet. Listen to the ancient, steady, and calm rhythm of the rebirth. The dark ages are over. The morning will come, but for now, there is only the gold of the memory and the velvet of the night. Sleep now, in the light of the new world. The golden light of the Italian Renaissance is slowly fading behind us, and the solid, marble floors of the Mediterranean palaces are being replaced by the shifting, creaking, salt-soaked timber of a new age. We are standing on the edge of the known world. The horizon is no longer a boundary, but a beckoning. It is the age of discovery. And as the great wooden giants of the sea prepare to unfurl their sails, a group of tiny, silent travelers is preparing to conquer a new world. Welcome to Ships of Discovery. Imagine the harbor of Seville or Lisbon in the late 15th century. The air is a chaotic symphony of scents, the sharp sting of sea salt, the earthy sweetness of unrefined sugar, and the heavy, intoxicating aroma of tar and fresh pine. Thousands of men are scurrying like ants across the docks, loading barrels of salted beef, crates of hardtack, and heavy cannons cast in bronze. But in the shadows of the cargo hold, tucked between the coils of thick hemp rope, there is a pair of glowing eyes. A traveler who needs no passport. A sailor who asks for no wage. To sail into the unknown was an act of extreme bravery or extreme desperation. The ocean was a vast, terrifying desert of blue. And for the men on board, the greatest threat wasn't always the storms or the sea monsters of myth. It was hunger. And the thieves of that hunger were the rats. A ship's hold was a floating banquet for rodents. They could chew through the water barrels, ruin the grain, and spread sickness in the cramped, damp quarters of the crew. And so, the cat became the most essential member of the voyage. Without the cat, the journey to the new world might have ended in silence and starvation before the first land was ever sighted. As the anchor is raised, can you hear it? The heavy, rhythmic clink 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 of the capstan. The shouting of the sailors as they climb the rigging. And then, the sudden, majestic thwack of the canvas as the wind catches the sails. The ship groans, it leans, and it begins its long dance with the Atlantic. Down in the dark belly of the ship, the cat is finding its sea legs. It is a marvel of balance. While the sailors stumble and grip the railings, the cat moves with a fluid grace that defies the tilting deck. Its whiskers are tuned to the vibrations of the ship's hull. Its paws are soft against the rough-hewn oak. It finds a spot on top of a wool bale, high above the damp bilge water. Here, in the heart of the ship, the cat listens. It hears the scratching of the rats behind the spice crates. It hears the steady, rhythmic heartbeat of the ocean against the wood. It is the guardian of the voyage. The silent protector of the mission. Think of the weeks turning into months. The sky is a vast dome of stars, and the sun is a relentless hammer of heat. The crew grows weary. They stare at the horizon until their eyes ache. But in the quiet hours of the night, when only the moon is watching, a sailor might find a small, striped companion sitting on a hatch cover. He reaches out a hand, calloused and stained with tar, and touches the soft fur of the ship's cat. In that moment, the thousands of miles of empty ocean disappear. For a brief second, the sailor is not in the middle of a terrifying void, he is back home, by a hearth, in a world that makes sense. The cat's purr is the only familiar sound in a world of strange winds and salt. As you lie in your bed, imagine the rhythmic rocking of that great wooden ship. You are tucked away in a safe, warm corner of the hold. The world above is huge and wild, but here, you are cocooned in the scent of cedar and old rope. Every creak of the wood is a lullaby. Every roll of the ship is a gentle hand rocking you to sleep. The cats on these ships were the first of their kind to see the distant shores of the Americas. They were the silent pioneers. As the lookout finally cries out, "Land ho!" and the misty green coastlines of the New World appear through the haze, the cat is there, watching from the prow. They survived the storms. They survived the doldrums. They survived the long, lonely nights of the crossing. And as the ships drop anchor in the turquoise waters of the Caribbean or the rocky bays of the north, the cat prepares to step onto a soil that has never known its scent. This is the bridge between the old world and the new. A bridge built of fur and bone and an ancient, unyielding resilience. The voyage was long, but the destination is near. The waves are calming as the ship enters the sheltered bay. The sails are being furled. The world is becoming still. The cat has completed its task. The grain is safe. The crew has survived. And now, a new story is about to begin in the tall grasses and the deep forests of a continent waiting to be explored. But for tonight, there is only the rest after the journey. The ship is at rest. The ocean is a mirror. And you are safe. Let the motion of the sea fade into the softness of your pillow. You have crossed the great water. You have found the shore. Sleep now, to the sound of the tide. Sleep, and dream of the wooden giants and the silver horizon. The wooden ships have found their harbors, the salt of the Atlantic is drying on the decks, and the vast, endless blue of the ocean has been replaced by the deep, formidable green of the New World. We are stepping off the gangplanks and onto a soil that feels ancient and untamed. The air here is different. It is thick with the scent of pine needles, damp earth, and the cold, sharp promise of a northern winter. This is the dawn of a new chapter. The cats of the old world have become the pioneers of the new. Welcome to the colonial guardians. Imagine a small settlement on the edge of the Massachusetts coast in the mid-1600s. A handful of wooden cabins, hand-hewn from the surrounding forest, huddled together against the vastness of the wilderness. Inside these cabins, the air is smoky from the hearth and smells of dried herbs and salted meat hanging from the rafters. And there, sitting on a hand-carved stool near the fire, is a cat. It looks exactly like the cats of the English villages or the French farms they left behind, but its role here is far more vital than ever before. In these early years, survival was a fragile thing. The winter was a silent, white predator that could last for months. The colonists' only hope for the spring was the grain they had managed to store in their small, wooden barns. Corn, wheat, and rye. These were not just food, they were the seeds of the future. But in the New World, new enemies awaited. Not just the familiar rats of the ships, but the clever, hungry rodents of the American forest. Without the cats, the first winters might have been the last. The cat became the silent sentinel of the colonial barn. Think of a winter night in the 1600s. The moon is a cold, silver coin hanging over the snow-covered pines. The village is utterly silent, except for the occasional groan of the freezing wood in the cabin walls. Inside the barn, the air is freezing, smelling of dry hay and cold earth. A cat sits atop a pile of grain sacks. Its fur is thick and winter-ready. It is perfectly still, a statue of patience. It is not just hunting, it is guarding the very heartbeat of the colony. Every mouse it catches is a day's worth of bread saved for a hungry child in the cabin nearby. The bond between the colonist and the cat grew deeper in this isolation. In a land that felt alien and often dangerous, the cat was a piece of the familiar. A mother sitting by the fireplace, spinning wool by the light of a tallow candle, would feel the warm pressure of a cat against her feet. It was a living connection to the homes they had left across the sea. A reminder that even in the wildest places, there could be a hearth, and there could be peace. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the warmth of that colonial cabin. The walls are thick and sturdy, built to keep out the howling wilderness. The fire is glowing a soft, deep orange, casting long, dancing shadows across the wooden floor. You are safe. You are protected by walls that have stood for generations. And like those early settlers, you have a guardian. Perhaps not a cat in the physical sense, but the same spirit of quiet watchfulness that has followed us through history. The same silence that protected the grain now protects your sleep. As the years passed, these colonial cats began to change. Nature began to shape them for this new environment. In the north, their fur became longer, thicker, their paws grew wider to walk upon the deep snows of the Maine and Canadian woods. They became the ancestors of the great forest cats we know today. Masters of the rugged landscape, survivors of the ice and the wind. But they never lost their love for the home. They remained the bridge between the wild forest and the warm kitchen. On a summer evening, you could see them sitting on the stone walls that lined the new fields, watching the fireflies rise from the long grass, their tails twitching in the cooling air. They had conquered the new world not with claws of war, but with the quiet persistence of the hunter. Think of the vastness of the American continent stretching out before them, the thousands of miles of unexplored mountains and plains. The cat would follow the pioneers in their wagons. They would sleep under the stars by the campfires of the West. Wherever a home was built, a cat was there to make it complete. The wilderness is no longer a place of fear. It is a place of wonder. A place where the silence is a gift. The moon is moving slowly across the sky, just as it did 400 years ago over the first cabins. The stars are the same. The peace is the same. The fire in the hearth is dying down now, the embers are a soft, pulsing red. The cat has moved from the stool to the foot of the bed, its weight a comforting anchor in the dark. The purr is low, a steady, rhythmic hum that vibrates through the blankets. Listen to the rhythm of the history. The rhythm of the seasons. The rhythm of the breath. You are a part of this long line of sleepers. Guarded. Watched over. At peace. The forest is quiet. The snow is falling softly outside the window, muffling the world in a blanket of white. There is nothing you need to do. There is nowhere you need to go. Sleep now, in the shelter of the cabin. Sleep, and dream of the ancient woods and the silver moon. The rugged, snow-covered pines of the colonial wilderness are receding now, and the rough-hewn log cabins are transforming into the towering brownstones and grand manors of a new century. We are stepping out of the barn and into the parlor. The air is no longer sharp with the scent of wood smoke and pine, it has become heavy and sweet, smelling of beeswax polish, Earl Grey tea, and the delicate fragrance of dried rose petals. We have arrived in the age of Victorian elegance. This is the era when the cat, once the silent sentinel of the shadows, became the crowning jewel of the domestic sphere. Welcome to Victorian elegance. Imagine a grand drawing room in London or New York in the year 1880. The windows are draped in heavy, emerald green velvet, held back by thick, golden tassels. The walls are adorned with intricate wallpaper featuring patterns of lilies and vines that seem to glow in the soft, flickering light of the gas lamps. In the center of the room, a coal fire burns steadily in a marble fireplace, its warmth radiating across the polished mahogany furniture. And there, reclining on a fringed silk cushion right in front of the hearth, is a cat. In the Victorian mind, the home was a sanctuary, a place of beauty and order away from the clatter and soot of the Industrial Revolution. And nothing represented the peace of the home better than a cat. This was the moment in history when the cat was no longer seen primarily as a worker, but as a companion of high status. They were the symbols of home, sweet home. To have a cat purring by the fire was to show the world that your household was a place of gentleness, of refinement, and of quiet grace. Think of the texture of this world. The soft brush of lace against a wooden table. The weight of a heavy wool rug beneath your feet. The cat fits perfectly into this tapestry of comfort. Its fur is as soft as the velvet curtains, its movements are as silent as the falling snow outside the window. The Victorians were fascinated by the cat's mystery. They wrote poems about them, they painted them into their family portraits, and for the first time, they began to give them names that reflected their newfound elegance. Not just Mauser or Grimalkin, but Duchess, Prince, or Seraphina. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the utter stillness of that Victorian evening. Outside, the hansom cabs are clopping slowly over the cobblestones, the sound muffled by the thick fog. But inside, everything is perfectly hushed. You are surrounded by things that were built to last, by materials that are natural and rich. You are safe within the walls of a world that values rest. The cat on the silk cushion is the master of this stillness. It has spent the afternoon watching the shadows move across the floral carpet. Now, as the evening deepens, it begins its nightly ritual of grooming. The rhythmic, hypnotic movement of its paw against its ear. The slow, steady blink of its half-closed eyes. It is teaching you how to let go of the day. It is showing you that there is no urgency in the night. This era also saw the birth of the fancy. The very first cat shows were held at the Crystal Palace in London. People traveled from miles away just to admire the long, flowing coats of the Persians or the striking, blue eyes of the newly arrived Siamese. The cat had become a work of art. A living sculpture that brought a touch of the exotic and the divine into the middle-class home. Queen Victoria herself was known to keep 2 Persian cats, and where the Queen led, the world followed. But even in this height of luxury, the cat never lost its ancient essence. Beneath the silk ribbons and the silver bells, the heart of the Egyptian hunter still beat. Late at night, when the gas lamps were turned low, and the house was asleep, the Victorian cat would still patrol the long, dark hallways. It would watch the moonlight move across the portraits of ancestors, its eyes glowing with the same golden light that once shone in the grain stores of the Nile. It remained the bridge between our modern world and the ancient silence. The fire in the marble hearth is glowing a deep, soft red. The ticking of the clock is a slow, steady heartbeat, tick-tock, tick-tock. Every sound is a signal that it is time to rest. Every shadow is a soft place for your mind to land. The cat has finally decided to move. It leaves its silk cushion and walks slowly across the room, its paws making no sound on the thick rug. It jumps lightly onto the foot of your bed, a small, warm weight that settles into the blankets. Its purr begins, a low, steady vibration that matches the rhythm of your own breathing. Listen to the elegance of the silence, the beauty of the dark, the history of the comfort that surrounds you. You are part of this long tradition of peace. You are cared for. You are in a sanctuary of your own making. The fog has swallowed the city outside. The world has disappeared. There is only this room, this warmth, and this sleep. Sleep now, in the velvet of the night. Sleep and dream of lace, and gold, and the eternal purr. The velvet curtains of the Victorian parlor are swaying gently in the evening breeze, and the soft, warm glow of the gas lamps is beginning to reveal a new kind of diversity. We have traveled through the mists of time, from the wild plains to the sacred temples, and now we enter a chapter of refined beauty. A chapter where the cat is no longer just a cat, but a carefully curated masterpiece of form and color. This is the era of scientific wonder and aesthetic obsession. This is the birth of breeds. Imagine a quiet conservatory in the late 19th century. Glass walls reflecting the silver light of a full moon. The air is cool and smells of damp ferns, potting soil, and the faint, sweet scent of gardenias. On a white wrought iron table, there are leather-bound journals filled with meticulous notes on lineage, heredity, and the mysterious laws of nature. And sitting among the ferns is a creature that looks like a cloud made of silk. A Persian. Its fur is a cascade of white, its eyes two glowing lanterns of copper. For thousands of years, nature was the only breeder. The environment shaped the cat, giving the desert cats their sandy coats and the forest cats their thick, water-resistant fur. But in the late 1800s, humanity began to look closer. We became fascinated by the different. We began to notice the rare blue coat of a cat from the Russian docks, the striking, color-pointed ears of a traveler from the kingdom of Siam, and the folded ears of a kitten found in a Scottish barn. We weren't just looking for hunters anymore. We were looking for beauty. We were looking for a living art form that could sit upon our mantels and share our beds. This was the birth of the cat fancy. A movement that sought to define the perfect silhouette, the perfect coat, the perfect gaze. Scientists and enthusiasts began to map the hidden codes within the cat, realizing that within one species lay 1,000 different possibilities. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the utter stillness of this discovery. The world is a place of infinite variety, and you are safe within the order of it all. Think of the Siamese, stepping off a ship from the east. It looked like nothing the Western world had ever seen. Its body was lithe and athletic, its coat the color of fresh cream, and its face, a dark, mysterious mask. When it first appeared at the Crystal Palace Cat Show in 1871, the crowd was silent in awe. It was like seeing a creature from a dream walking in the waking world. Then there were the blue cats. The British short hair, with its thick, plush coat the color of a stormy sky, and its copper eyes like autumn leaves. It was the embodiment of the sturdy, reliable spirit of the islands. And the Maine Coon, the gentle giant of the American North, with its tufted ears and its magnificent, plumed tail, a cat built for the rugged woods and the deep snows, now being celebrated in the parlors of the city. Every breed was a story. Every lineage was a journey across continents and through time. This was the time when we realized that the cat's DNA was a library of secrets. Within those tiny cells lay the memory of the snow leopard, the jungle cat, and the desert lynx. By selecting for certain traits, we weren't creating something new, we were simply highlighting the different facets of an ancient diamond. The cat remained unchanged in its soul, even as its coat changed color or its tail changed shape. Think of the patience required to observe these changes over decades. The quiet observation, the careful notes. It is the same patience you are feeling now. A slow, steady unfolding of the night. A realization that beauty does not need to be rushed. That the most exquisite things in life take time to develop. The journals in the conservatory are being closed now. The ink is dry. The moon has moved further across the sky, casting new shadows among the ferns. The Persian cat has tucked its paws beneath its chest, becoming a soft, white orb in the dark. Its breathing is slow, a rhythmic rise and fall that seems to sync with the very turning of the earth. You are part of this grand design. A world where every detail is cared for, where every life has a place and a purpose. You don't have to understand the science of the stars to feel their peace. You don't have to know the history of the breeds to feel the comfort of the cat at your feet. The world of the fancy is a world of quiet appreciation, of looking at the small things and seeing the infinite. The gas lamps have been turned out. The only light now is the pale blue of the moon. The different breeds, the Siamese, the Persian, the short hair, they are all sleeping now. In the dark, they are all the same. They are all children of the same ancient silence. They are all guardians of the same peace. Listen to the stillness. The way the house breathes when everyone is at rest. Every board that creaks is a sign of a house that is settled. Every shadow is a soft place for your thoughts to rest. You are drifting through the library of time. The pages are turning slowly, and each one is a lullaby. Sleep now, in the variety of the world. Sleep and dream of silk and silver, and the golden eyes of the past. The elegant conservatory and the silent libraries of the Victorian era are slowly dissolving into the mist, and the air is becoming sharper, filled with the scent of wet earth, cold iron, and the distant, rhythmic hum of a world in motion. We are entering the 20th century, a time when the world was tested by the shadows of war. But even in the loudest chapters of human history, there was a small, quiet presence that refused to leave our side. This is the story of the brave souls who wore no uniforms, but carried the weight of our hope. Welcome to Wartime Mascots. Imagine a trench in northern France in the winter of 1915. The sky is a heavy, leaden gray, and the ground is a sea of frozen mud. Thousands of men are huddled in the earth, cold, tired, and far from the homes they love. But if you look into a small wooden dugout, tucked away from the wind, you might see a splash of color. A ginger tabby, or a black and white patch cat, curled up on a soldier's woolen greatcoat. In the chaos of war, the cat was an island of normalcy. To the soldiers, they were more than just rat catchers, though they performed that duty with ancient skill, protecting the precious mail from home and the meager rations of the men. But their true value was something that couldn't be measured in grain or protection. They were the keepers of the soldiers' humanity. A cat didn't know about borders, it didn't know about politics. It only knew the warmth of a hand, and the shared silence of a cold night. A soldier sitting in the dark, listening to the world rumble outside, would feel a small, warm weight settle onto his lap. In that moment, the trench disappeared. The mud and the cold faded away. For a few precious minutes, he wasn't a soldier, he was just a human being, sitting with a friend. The cat's purr was a sound that belonged to a world of peace. A sound that spoke of kitchens, of gardens, and of a life that was waiting for them to return. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the profound stillness that can exist even in the most difficult times. You are safe. You are tucked away in a place where the only sound is the rhythmic ticking of the clock or the soft breathing of the night. The cats of the Great Wars taught us that peace is not just the absence of noise, it is a presence that we carry within us. It is a small, glowing light that cannot be extinguished. Think of the ship's cats of the Second World War. On the great steel giants of the Royal Navy or the American fleet, cats like Unsinkable Sam or Simon of the HMS Amethyst became legends. They lived through the spray of the North Atlantic and the heat of the Pacific. They slept on the war machinery of the engine rooms, and they stood watch on the bridges, their eyes scanning the dark water with the same focus their ancestors used in the grain stores of Egypt. They were the morale of the crew, the tiny, furry heart of the ship. These cats were often given their own miniature hammocks. They were mentioned in the official logs. They were the silent witnesses to the greatest events of the century, and they never flinched. They reminded the sailors that even in the middle of a vast, dangerous ocean, there was still room for gentleness. There was still a reason to be kind. Their resilience was a mirror to our own. Think of the silence of a bombed-out library or a quiet village street after the storm has passed. In the ruins, the cat would be the first to reappear, walking over the rubble with a grace that seemed to say that beauty can never be truly destroyed. They were the symbols of survival, the proof that life goes on, quietly, steadily, and with an unyielding spirit. The history of the wartime mascots is a history of love in its simplest form. It is the story of a bowl of condensed milk shared in a dugout, the story of a kitten found in a ruined farmhouse and carried in a soldier's pocket across a continent. These small acts of connection are what hold the world together when it feels like it is falling apart. You are a part of that steady, unyielding peace tonight. The world outside may be moving, it may be busy, it may be loud, but here, in the circle of your own sanctuary, there is only the quiet. There is only the history of the guardians who have seen us through the dark. The trenches are long gone, covered in wildflowers. The great ships are at rest in the deep. But the spirit of the mascot lives on. It is the spirit of the companion who stays when everyone else has left. It is the spirit of the one who knows that the best thing you can do for someone is to simply be there. The night is moving forward, but time has slowed down for you. Every breath you take is a step further into the deep, restorative sleep that you deserve. You are protected by the memory of 10,000 years of friendship. The watch is being kept by those who came before. The ginger cat is sleeping on the greatcoat. The ship's cat is curled in its hammock. And you are safe in your own home. Listen to the stillness of the room. The way the shadows are soft and kind. There is nothing to fear. There is only the rest. Sleep now, with the courage of the silent. Sleep, and dream of the green fields and the peaceful seas. The echoes of the great ships and the distant rumble of the trenches are finally fading into the soft, blue haze of the past. We are moving away from the survival of the wilderness and the duty of the war, into a world that is finding its rhythm in peace. The middle of the 20th century has arrived. A time of manicured lawns, white picket fences, and the gentle hum of a world settling into comfort. And in this new, modern landscape, the cat is undergoing its final, most graceful transformation. From a worker and a mascot to the undisputed heart of the suburban home. Welcome to the rise of the middle-class cat. Imagine a quiet afternoon in a suburban neighborhood in the 1950s. The air is sweet with the scent of freshly cut grass, blooming lilacs, and the faint, nostalgic smell of laundry drying on a line in the breeze. The houses are colorful and bright, with wide windows that invite the sunlight to dance across the linoleum floors. And there, sitting on a sun-warmed windowsill behind a thin lace curtain, is a cat. It is no longer hunting for survival in a granary. It is watching the world go by with a sense of perfect, quiet belonging. This was the era when the cat became an icon of the modern family. As the world moved into the cities and the sprawling suburbs, our relationship with nature changed. We no longer lived in the wild, so we brought the beauty of the wild into our homes. The cat was the perfect bridge. It was small enough for an apartment, clean enough for a modern kitchen, and silent enough for the quiet nights of a residential street. For the rising middle class, the cat was a symbol of a life that had finally achieved balance. Think of the textures of this era. The smooth surface of a television set, the soft pile of a new wool carpet, the click-clack of a rotary phone. The cat moved through this world with an effortless cool. It was the era of the cat who walks by himself. Writers and filmmakers began to celebrate the cat's mystery in a new way. They weren't gods or demons anymore, they were the cool, detached, and elegant observers of our busy human lives. Having a cat was a statement of style. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the peace of that suburban evening. The sun is setting slowly, casting long, orange shadows across the bedroom floor. The world outside is winding down. The cars have stopped moving, the neighbors have gone inside, and the only sound is the rhythmic, steady breathing of the house itself. You are safe in a world that values your rest. A world that has built a sanctuary just for you. The cat on the windowsill finally decides to move. It jumps down, its paws making a soft thud on the carpet, a sound that is more of a vibration than a noise. It walks toward you, its tail a gentle, waving banner of affection. It is the master of the quiet hour. In a century that was becoming faster and louder, the cat was the anchor that kept us grounded in the present moment. They taught a generation of people how to slow down, how to sit, and how to simply watch the light change on the wall. This was also the time of the great domestic inventions for our feline friends. The birth of the modern cat litter, the rise of specialized foods, the toys and the scratching posts. We were no longer just sharing our space with them, we were designing our lives around them. The cat person became a recognized identity. A person who valued independence, mystery, and the quiet companionship of a creature that could never be fully owned. Think of the millions of cats that have lived in these quiet houses over the last few decades. The tabbies sleeping on the tops of refrigerators, the calicos curled up in the laundry baskets, the black cats watching the moon from the porch railings. They have been the silent witnesses to our family dinners, our late-night conversations, and our most private moments of reflection. They are the guardians of the domestic peace. The ones who turn a house into a home. The world outside your window is quiet now, just like those suburban streets of the past. The history of the cat has brought them from the edges of the wild to the very center of your life. They have traveled 10,000 years to find this spot at the foot of your bed. And in their steady, rhythmic purr, you can hear the echoes of all those years. The grain stores, the ships, the parlors, and the gardens. You are a part of this long, beautiful. You don't have to do anything tonight but exist. You don't have to solve any problems. You don't have to plan for tomorrow. You only have to listen to the silence. The sun has disappeared completely now. The moon is a soft, silver glow behind the clouds. The cat has settled into a comfortable spot, its eyes closed, its ears occasionally twitching at the sound of a distant car. It is at peace, and because it is at peace, you can be too. Every breath you take is synchronized with the history of the world. Every heartbeat is a part of the long line of guardians. You are resting in the heart of the modern sanctuary. Safe, warm, and completely still. The linoleum floors are cool, the carpets are soft, and the night is kind. Sleep now, in the heart of the home. Sleep and dream of sunbeams and quiet streets. We have traveled through the corridors of stone palaces, through the smoke of ancient fires, and through the sun-drenched gardens of the Renaissance. But now, we are moving beyond what the eye can see. We are shrinking down, smaller than a grain of sand, smaller than a speck of dust, until we enter the microscopic world of the unseen. We are entering the realm of the code, the blueprint of life itself. Tonight, we explore the deepest mystery of all: science and feline DNA. Imagine a modern laboratory in the middle of the night. The building is silent, the only sound is the low, steady hum of a computer processor cooling down. Outside the window, the world is asleep, but on the glowing monitor, a map is unfolding. A map not of lands or seas, but of the 2.7 billion base pairs that make up the domestic cat. As scientists began to decode this map, they discovered something that took their breath away. Deep within the DNA of the house cat sleeping on your sofa lies a giant. Genetic analysis reveals that our domestic cats share a staggering 95.6% of their DNA with the Siberian tiger. Think about that for a moment as you lie in the quiet of your room. That small, soft creature tucked at the foot of your bed is biologically, genetically, almost identical to the apex predator of the frozen forests. They carry the same royal bloodline, the same ancient blueprints for power, precision, and stealth. But while the tiger grew large to hunt the elk, the cat remained small to hunt the shadows. Unlike dogs, who have been genetically reshaped by humans for thousands of years, cats have barely changed at all. Their DNA tells a story of a creature that domesticated itself without losing its soul. When we compare the DNA of a cat from 10,000 years ago to a cat living in a modern apartment today, the differences are almost invisible. They are the ultimate survivors. They found a form that was perfect, a design that was flawless, and they stayed that way. They didn't need to change for us. They simply allowed us to join their world. But the science of the cat goes deeper than just their history. It is written in their very senses. Have you ever wondered why a cat can wake from a deep sleep in a fraction of a second? It is because of a specific set of genes that keeps their nervous system in a state of low-frequency readiness. Even when they are dreaming, their brain is processing sound and vibration at a level we can barely imagine. Their DNA has gifted them with a tapetum lucidum, a mirror-like layer behind the retina that reflects light back through the eye, allowing them to see in what we would call total darkness. To a cat, the night is never truly dark. It is a world of silver shades and subtle movements. Their whiskers are not just hair, they are complex sensory organs connected to a specific part of the brain's somatosensory cortex. They can feel the slight change in air pressure when you walk into a room, even if you make no sound. They are a masterpiece of biological engineering, a creature designed to be perfectly in tune with the vibrations of the universe. Perhaps the most healing part of this science is the purr. For years, scientists were puzzled by how and why a cat purrs. We now know it is a rhythmic signaling from the cat's brain to the laryngeal muscles. But the real discovery was the frequency. Most cats purr at a frequency between 25 and 150 Hz. In the world of medicine, these specific frequencies are known to improve bone density and promote the healing of tendons and muscles. As you listen to the silence of your house tonight, remember that the purr of a cat is a biological healing mechanism. It is a low-frequency lullaby that doesn't just soothe the mind, it heals the body. Evolution didn't just give the cat a way to communicate, it gave them a way to generate peace. A way to vibrate in harmony with the very cells of the humans who care for them. You are resting in the presence of a natural healer. As the night grows deeper, let the complexity of the science fade into the simplicity of the moment. You don't need to understand the 20,000 genes in a cat's genome to feel the effect of their presence. Science is just our way of trying to explain the magic that has been sitting in our laps for 10,000 years. The DNA is the map, but the cat is the journey. The lab computers are turning off now. The researchers have gone home. The only thing left is the steady, rhythmic pulse of life. Your own heart rate is slowing down, matching the calm, measured pace of the history we've discussed. You are drifting into the code of the night. A place where there are no questions, only the steady, ancient breath of existence. The tigers in the forest are moving through the snow. The house cats are curled on their blankets. And the DNA that connects them both is the same DNA that connects you to this peaceful moment. You are part of the great, unfolding story of life on Earth. The microscopic world is at rest. The large world is at rest. Everything is as it should be. The blueprint is perfect. The construction is complete. Sleep now, in the certainty of the science. Sleep and dream of the silver light and the healing vibrations. The microscopic world of DNA and the ancient codes of life are settling now, becoming a silent foundation for the world we see around us today. We are stepping out of the laboratory and into the glowing, flickering, electric landscape of the 21st century. We have entered a world of light-speed information, of glass screens and invisible signals, a world where we are more connected than ever before, and yet, often more alone. And in this vast, digital wilderness, a familiar shape has emerged to lead the way. Not as a hunter of mice, but as a hunter of hearts. Welcome to the digital purr. Imagine the world just a few decades ago, as the first computers began to hum in our homes. The air changed. It became filled with the scent of warm plastic, the ozone of static electricity, and the soft blue glow of the monitor in a dark room. And just as they did in the grain stores of the Nile and the libraries of the Middle Ages, the cats walked into this new space. They sat on our keyboards, they swatted at the flickering cursors on our screens, and they reminded us that no matter how fast our technology moved, the ancient rhythm of the purr remained the same. In the early days of the internet, a strange phenomenon began to occur. Amidst the data and the cold code, people began to share images of their cats. Simple, blurry, candid moments of domestic life. A cat sleeping in a box. A cat chasing a shadow. A cat looking at the world with that timeless, unblinking gaze. Why did this happen? Why did a species that had conquered the physical world suddenly decide to conquer the digital one? It was because the cat is the perfect antidote to the noise of the modern world. In an age of endless notifications, of frantic updates and flashing lights, the image of a sleeping cat became a digital sanctuary. A meme was not just a joke, it was a moment of shared peace. When we look at a cat on our screens, our heart rate slows down. We reconnect with a part of ourselves that is pre-digital, ancient, and still. The cat became the silent ambassador of the internet, the guardian of our mental space in a loud world. As you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the vast web of light that surrounds the Earth. Thousands of miles of fiber optic cables resting on the ocean floor, satellites whispering to each other in the cold vacuum of space. All of that technology, all of that power, and so much of it is used to transmit the image of a purring cat from one side of the planet to the other. It is a beautiful irony. We built a machine to touch the stars, and we used it to share the warmth of our hearths. The digital purr is a global connection. A person in a high-rise in Tokyo, a student in a library in London, and a farmer in the American Midwest, they all look at the same image of a cat stretching in a sunbeam, and for a moment, they feel the same peace. The cat has unified the digital world under one simple law, the law of the quiet moment. They have taught us that even in a world of pixels and code, we are still creatures of touch, of warmth, and of breath. Think of the live stream. Millions of people across the globe tuning in just to watch a litter of kittens sleeping in a sanctuary. Nothing happens. There is no drama. There is no conflict. There is only the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of small bodies. This is the ultimate, boring history. This is the history of the present. We watch them because we want to remember how to rest. We watch them because their digital presence is a reminder of our own physical reality. As the night deepens, imagine your own devices growing quiet. The screens are darkening. The notifications are silenced. The blue light is fading, replaced by the soft, natural shadows of your room. You are disconnecting from the network and reconnecting with the earth. You are moving away from the cloud and into the clay. The history of the cat has brought you here, to this final, peaceful frontier. The internet is still there, humming in the background, but it no longer has power over you. You are in the offline, a place of perfect privacy, a place of absolute rest. The cat has led you through the centuries, through the wars and the palaces and the labs, and now it has led you through the wires, and back to yourself. The digital purr is now just a memory. What remains is the real purr, the physical vibration of the air, the warmth of the body, the scent of the night. Your eyes are growing heavy, like a monitor entering sleep mode. The data is processed. The files are closed. The only thing left to do is to be still. Listen to the silence of the modern house. The refrigerators hum, the distant sound of the city, and the close, intimate sound of your own breathing. Everything is in its place. Everything is safe. The pixels have dissolved. The screen of your mind is blank and dark. A beautiful, velvety blackness that is full of peace. The guardian of the digital world has finished its watch. And now, it is time for you to close your eyes. Sleep now, in the quiet of the modern age. Sleep and dream of light and glass and the ancient heart that beats within them. The flickering blue light of the digital world is finally dimming, and the invisible signals of the wires and waves are settling into a deep, quiet hum. We are coming home. We are returning to the physical space that we call our own, our sanctuary, our fortress against the noise of the 21st century. The world outside has never been faster, it has never been louder, or more demanding. But as we turn the key in the lock and step across the threshold, we enter a different kind of time. a time that is guarded by an ancient presence. This is the modern sanctuary. Imagine the end of a long, exhausting day in the modern world. The air outside is filled with the frantic energy of the city, the glare of headlights, the rush of footsteps, and the endless weight of expectations. But as the door closes behind you, that world disappears. The air here is soft, smelling of familiar scents, of home, and perhaps a hint of lavender or fresh laundry. And there, waiting in the hallway, or perhaps already settled on the sofa, is your silent partner. Your cat. In this modern age, the cat has taken on its most important role yet. They are the guardians of our mental peace. We no longer need them to protect our grain from mice, or our ships from rats. We need them to protect our hearts from the stress of the world. To a cat, your status, your deadlines, and your worries are completely irrelevant. They do not care about your inbox. They do not care about the news. They only care about the quality of the sunlight on the floor and the rhythmic pattern of your breath. By simply existing in our space, they force us to slow down. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to be frantic when a cat is sleeping peacefully in the same room? Their stillness is contagious. Their calm is a vacuum that pulls in the chaos and replaces it with a steady, grounded reality. They are the living anchors of the present moment. They remind us that the most important thing we can do is to just be here. Now. As you lie in your bed tonight, feel the weight of the day lifting off your shoulders. The world is asking nothing of you now. You have entered the sanctuary. Think of the millions of homes across the planet where this same scene is unfolding. People coming home from offices, from hospitals, from factories, and finding their peace in the soft fur and the steady purr of a cat. This bond has become a form of modern medicine. A silent therapy that requires no words. When you stroke a cat's head, when you feel the vibration of their contentment against your skin, your body releases its tension. Your cortisol levels drop. Your heart rate finds a slower, more natural rhythm. You are being healed by a tradition that is 10,000 years old. The god of the Nile has become the healer of the modern mind. The modern sanctuary is a place where we are allowed to be vulnerable. The cat does not judge. It does not offer advice. It simply offers its presence. In the deep of the night, when the house is quiet and the worries of tomorrow try to creep in, the cat is there. It sits at the foot of your bed, its eyes reflecting the faint light of the moon, watching the shadows so you don't have to. It is the same watch that was kept in the Roman forts and the Victorian parlors. The scenery has changed, but the guardian remains the same. Think of the quiet power of the cat. They have seen us through the rise and fall of civilizations. They have seen us move from mud huts to skyscrapers. And yet, they have remained exactly who they are. They are the only part of our lives that hasn't been upgraded or digitized. They are a raw, beautiful piece of the ancient world, sitting on our modern furniture. They keep us connected to the earth, to the animals, and to the silence. The world outside is continuing its frantic pace, but it cannot reach you here. Your sanctuary is impenetrable. The walls are strong, the lights are low, and the air is still. You are drifting into a place where time has no meaning. A place where you are not a worker, or a citizen, or a consumer. You are simply a human being, at rest. The cat has finally settled into its favorite spot. It lets out a long, deep sigh, a sound of absolute trust. It knows it is safe with you, and in that knowledge, you find the strength to feel safe with yourself. The purr begins, a low, rhythmic hum that vibrates through the house, clearing away the last remnants of the day's noise. Listen to the heartbeat of the sanctuary. The slow, steady, and calm rhythm of a home that is at peace. Everything is settled. Everything is right. You are moving closer to the final threshold of sleep. The history of the cat is nearing its conclusion, but the friendship is eternal. You are guarded by 10,000 years of history. You are loved by a creature that knows the secrets of the dark. The sanctuary is complete. The night is deep. The rest is yours. Sleep now, in the heart of the modern world. Sleep and dream of the quiet places and the golden eyes of the past. The sanctuary is now complete. The doors are locked, the lights are out, and the world of the 21st century has finally, at long last, fallen silent. We have traveled 10,000 years together. From the first cautious paw prints in the sands of the Fertile Crescent to the golden thrones of Egypt. From the secret holds of Phoenician ships to the cold stone floors of medieval monasteries. We have seen the cats walk through the fire of superstition and emerge into the light of science and art. And now, at the end of our long journey, we find ourselves back where we started. In the quiet. In the dark. In the presence of the eternal purr. Imagine all of history as a vast, velvet curtain. And behind that curtain, there is a single, steady, rhythmic sound. It is the sound that has never changed. Empires have risen and crumbled into dust. Great forests have grown and been cleared away. Languages have been born and forgotten. But the purr has remained the same. It is the oldest song in the world. A song of trust. A song of survival. A song of peace. Think of the continuity of this vibration. The same frequency that calmed a farmer in ancient Mesopotamia is the same frequency that is calming you right now. It is a thread of gold that runs through the tapestry of human existence. When you listen to it, you are not just listening to a pet. You are listening to the heartbeat of the earth. You are listening to 10,000 years of companionship condensed into a single, soft vibration. The cat at the foot of your bed is a living fossil of affection. It carries within it the memory of every hearth fire that has ever burned. It carries the stillness of the desert nights and the patience of the long sea voyages. It is the eternal witness. The one who stays. The one who watches over us while we dream of things we cannot understand. As you sink deeper into your mattress, feel the weight of time becoming lighter. The centuries are just shadows. The millennia are just clouds passing over the moon. You are part of an unbroken line of sleepers who have found comfort in the same presence. You are safe because you are part of this history. You are protected by a bond that has survived the rise and fall of everything we know. The eternal purr is a promise. It is a promise that no matter how loud the world becomes, there will always be a place of silence. It is a promise that no matter how far we wander, there is always a way back to the center. As you drift closer to the edge of sleep, let that vibration be your anchor. Let it pull the tension from your limbs. Let it quiet the thoughts in your mind. There is no more history to learn. There are no more secrets to uncover. The cycle is complete. The wildcat became the hunter. The hunter became the guardian. The guardian became the god. The god became the friend. And now, the friend has become the peace itself. You can feel it in the air around you. A thickness of calm. A density of rest. The ancient Egyptians believed that the cat stood at the threshold of the underworld, guarding the gates of sleep. Tonight, the gate is open. And the guardian is inviting you through. You don't need to take anything with you. You don't need your worries. You don't need your memories of the day. You only need to follow the sound. Listen, can you hear it? It is the sound of the universe breathing. It is the sound of the stars turning in their orbits. It is the sound of the deep, restorative sleep that is now claiming you. The history is over. The story is done. The cat has closed its eyes. The golden light is gone. There is only the velvet. There is only the dark. There is only the eternal, steady purr. You are falling, softly, like a feather through the night. You are moving into a dream that has no end. A dream where you are always safe. Always warm. Always home. The world is a memory. The silence is the reality. Goodbye to the Nile. Goodbye to the ships. Goodbye to the palaces and the parks. There is only this moment. This breath. This peace. The eternal purr is the last thing you hear. It is the first thing you will know in the morning. But for now, it is the bridge to the infinite. Sleep. 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 The guardian has finished the watch. The history is complete. Good night.